20 minutes. All right. Mic on. Yeah, receiver. All right. All right. Shot of water. Agua, as they say. All right. All right, good morning. This is Sports for Real with Coach Hall with another edition of this morning sports bite, I call it. Still chewing on the NFL overtime rules. But before I get into that, I just want to make a brief statement about the thumbnail that you see there. That is an image of an employee closing the door on a long-time establishment in Jacksonville forever. That is Jenkins Barbecue in Jacksonville. And Jenkins Barbecue has been around since 1957. And since 1957 to the present day, when they closed yesterday, it has been a favorite around town to get some real good ribs. And they're well known for their sauce. Now, the interesting thing about that is there's not a whole lot of places like Jenkins anymore. So you would think that it should be able to sustain itself. But about a month ago, the company released the statement that they were going to close all their locations. There are 3 now. And they're going to close these locations because of rising employee costs, supply chain issues, and changes in customer taste. Well, I don't know about the cost that they're paying for the food, or I understand with the higher unemployment, not unemployment, but minimum wage and all of that, that things are much higher now. I can get that. But the thing about the change in food taste, that I don't get. Ribs are always going to be in fashion. I don't give a damn if we're talking about 10.25 or 31.25. People are always going to be eating ribs. So they threw me for a loop when they're talking about changing food taste. But what's interesting about this Jenkins thing is that, how you doing, Break? The interesting thing about Jenkins is we're talking in class about this thing called multi-level management or marketing, where you make money in multiple different ways from the same business. So you got 3 different franchises and you talking about you having labor costs and all these other things. Why not liquidate down to 1 franchise and keep selling your sauce out the back door like you've been doing, which is multi-level marketing, and then get to the point where you can rebuild. But to just close the door, it don't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. Seems like to me is that, the people that found these businesses, a lot of the older generations, the next generation are keeping on, but their kids, they don't give a damn. And it looks like this is where they are with this particular establishment. So you're going to lose a great business because the grandkids don't want to put the work in that the parents and grandparents before them did. And they're letting the franchise go that could be much bigger than what it is. No different than any other barbecue chain that continues to grow with terrible food. This food is much better than some of the barbecue institutions that you know about on a daily basis. But mismanagement and apathy is the reason why this great institution is closing. And it's a shame because now you don't have anywhere to go to get your favorite ribs when the big game comes along. And that is a shame. Break, how you doing, man? Mirko says hello. And Selma, what's going on? Yesterday I came on and talked about overtime rules. Everybody's crying and complaining because they seem to not know the rules of the game. Some of the players think that, they should get paid extra money when the game goes into overtime, and then they should have softer rules where they shouldn't have to put their body on the line. At least that's the impression I got from what Mike Irvin was saying. And I'm a little disappointed in that because if you don't want the game to go into overtime, sell the shit in regulation. But That's just the way things are. And the players get up there and they make excuses for not knowing to cover up their ineptitudes. And I got a problem with that. So I think that the NFL, to stop all that crying, go back to the rule the way it was when I was a kid. Whoever wins the coin toss, if you get the ball first and you go down and score, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, ball game's over. Got a problem with that? Stop them. Now, like I said, I do believe that both teams should get the ball, but no matter what you do, somebody's going to complain about the way the rules are in place. So now they're complaining league-wide about the game ended in a tie after such a beautiful ball game. Well, Goodell and his rules commission, they're going to go and do the knee-jerk reaction like they always do. They're going to react to this, and next year you're going to have different overtime rules, I guarantee you. But like I said yesterday also, the best way to settle overtime football is to do it the way they do it most high schools. You put the ball down on the 10-yard line, you got 4 plays. You score whatever you score, the other team gets 4 plays to do the same thing. And when that happens, eventually somebody's going to break through and win a game because somebody's going to make a mistake. Now, the only thing that they could do in high school to reduce some of these 6, 7 overtime per fair, which never really gets that far in high school, go for 2 after like the second or third possession, and that would change a whole lot. Evan CV, where you been, man? Yeah, the Bears coming on a little bit, but we see how they are in 3 or 4 weeks. We won't just get overly excited about them right now. But speaking of overtime, let's just give you a little overtime history here. We know about the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers, right? So let's talk about one of the Cowboy greats, Emmitt Smith. When Emmitt Smith was a sophomore in high school, their team made the playoffs. The first round, they went to Tallahassee. They had to go to 3 overtimes. Remember that? Put it on the 10-yard line and go from there? Well, they ended up winning the game in triple overtime. And that took them to the second round where they were going to take on the top-ranked team in that class in the state in Jacksonville. They came to Jacksonville, and this team also had the number 1 ranked defense in the state. But the problem with that team, they made a lot of dumb mistakes, a lot of penalties. And this particular night, the kicker, he couldn't kick a 5-yard field goal. He missed 4 or 5 kicks on this night, and the game ended up going into overtime again. Now, remember, I just told you Smith, he went to 3 overtimes in Tallahassee. Well, this second round game ended up going 4 overtimes. Why? Because the damn kicker from Jacksonville kept missing the extra points and field goals. So after the last miss, Smith, 2 major upsets. Smith goes on to win the state championship that year, and he came back again the next year and won it again. But what's significant about this second overtime game that he played as a sophomore, guess who was on the other sideline? Leroy Butler. So what am I telling you here? In 1984, you can look it up, Emmitt Smith, Hall of Famer, Leroy Butler, Hall of Famer. This is the only known occasion that I know of, and you may know of better than me, where you had 2 future NFL Hall of Famers playing against each other in high school. Not only did they play in high school, they also played against each other in college, and you know that Emmitt and Leroy went together a lot in the pros with the Packers and the Cowboys. Matter of fact, there's a Hall of Fame picture, which I'm sure the Hall of Fame doesn't know about. Guy just happened to catch 4 or 5 Hall of Famers in one frame. You got Butler coming in to tackle Smith, and in the frame, you also have Reggie White in there. Can't believe it, man. Just look it up. But these are the kind of things that football produces that nobody really pays attention to. But if you peel back the layers, you can go back and look. But there it is in the records. Emmitt Smith, Leroy Butler got together on November 30th, 1984 in the second round, and they went 4 overtimes, 4 overtimes, and Smith had survived 3 overtimes against Tallahassee Ricketts just to get to that point. And that allowed him to go on to win those championships. So just a quick note about that. But what do you guys think, man? You think the NFL should change these rules, man? Like I say, I think you should just put it down on the 10-yard line and go for yourself. Somebody's going to make a mistake. And it won't take long. And we're on you if you snap the ball over the guy's head, which is more possible now because guys are running in shotgun. That happened to me in an overtime game once. We had the perfect play call. We were going to run a screen against a blitz, and lo and behold, we run the center, under center, and we do shotgun. Well, for whatever reason, the center got confused. He got all excited. We're in shotgun. He snaps the ball as if the guy's underneath, and the ball goes straight up in the air, and the other damn team almost got it, but we ended up being pushed back 10 yards. Made all the difference in the game, man. That's the beauty of high school. You never know what's going to happen, and that's why I like that game so much. But most of you guys saying that the NFL overtime rule should not change. As they are right now, both teams get a chance to get the ball. If you get the ball, you kick a field goal, and the other team comes down and kick a field goal, then it comes down to time. You end up in the tie. That's what happened to Green Bay the other night. And then you have, it used to be before they made this change, both teams would get the ball unless the first team scored a touchdown on their first possession, which is basically the same rule as they had before. And that's huge. But I think what they're going to do now, they're going to go find a way that if there's a tie after the 10 minutes, it's going to be something like soccer where it might be a field goal kicker trying to kick 50, 60 yarders, because you know these kickers now, they can kick out of the damn arena now. And I think that's what's going to happen. If it's tied after the first 10-minute period, they're either going to extend the period to a full 15 minutes, which should be anyway, or they're going to have the kickers kick it off. Now, it's also interesting to note that once you get into overtime in the playoffs, then you pretty much start a new game. First score wins. All right, Break Forever says no. Play defense is too much time on the field. That's our teams risk more injury to the players. Well, I understand the more you play, the more you have the opportunity to get hurt. But I've known players that gotten hurt on the opening kickoff. And just so happened, I'll put it this way, we said something about high school football. Years ago when I was a kid, my school was ranked #1. And on the opening kickoff, they lost one of their best players. It just happened to be the fullback, starting fullback in the wishbone offense. He couldn't play. And because he couldn't play, they didn't have a suitable backup. And that made all the difference in the world. And just so happened the same team that Leroy Butler played for, this is the same school. And they end up winning that game big because the other team couldn't move the ball. You don't have a suitable fullback, you can't play in the wishbone. And it doesn't matter if you play for 65 minutes or 5 minutes. Anybody can get hurt. But if you look at the longest game in NFL history with the Chiefs and the Dolphins on was it Christmas night '71? They played over 80 minutes. Nobody got hurt then. Nobody was complaining about some guy's going to get hurt because he's been on the field too long. And I just think that this society now is just soft. We're worried about getting hurt. I know it's a rough, tough game and all of that, but shit, you know that when you put the helmet on. So you can't complain about the game being rough and going long and act like you didn't know that was going to happen all along. But it's just like now in high school, guy tell me, football coach tell me that he's got a game to play and the wet bulb temperature is too high for his team to practice. Okay, fine. But how about this? They don't stop the game on Friday nights if the wet bulb temperature is too high. So tell me, why can't these kids get out there and practice? You don't have to have a strenuous practice. They can't even do a walkthrough if the wet bulb temperature is too high. But they don't stop the game for the same reason. I would understand if they couldn't play if the wet bulb was too high. But if you think about it, there's money involved. These people paying money at the gate, they come to see a football game. They don't want to hear nothing about wet bulb temperature. They come to see the game. Now, lightning is a different story. You got to get them off the field for lightning because you're talking about life and death there. But in a state like Florida, people are used to the heat. They're used to the heat out in Arizona where it gets much hotter than it is Texas. So why can't kids at least walk through during a practice? Because you said to me that the wet bulb temperature is too high. Now, I'm not talking about in July. I'm talking about at the end of September. When is the wet bulb too high in Florida at late September, unless you're living in Miami. Don't make sense to me. All right. Edwin CV said, if it's on the 10-yard line, the Eagles will win them all. No, I think eventually somebody's going to put a stop to that tush push. And just like they're talking about this overtime rule thing, they're trying to get rid of that tush push because nobody can seem to master it like what Philadelphia has. They call it an unfair advantage. And it actually looks like the scrum of football when it first started. It looks a lot like rugby. But I told you guys before, there's a way to stop that tush push. They all depended on the quarterback to run it up in there, right? You got Jalen Hurts. He's a very valuable member of the Eagles tush push package. He's strong, squat all these 600-700 pounds, and he's suitable to run it up in there. But the problem is, you can't keep pushing me back like what you did. And you got a glimpse of what I'm beginning to say in the playoffs with those guys from Washington jumping the snap and jumping across the line, trying to put a stop to that. Well, you can't keep doing that because they're going to call you for excessive delay of game and you're going to award the team the touchdown. So in that case, they would have an advantage over everybody else. But with a guy like Jalen Hurts, and I know he's their quarterback, he's on the bottom of that pile. There's a lot of carnage that goes on beneath that pile. If I'm on the pile with Jalen Hurts and I'm under there, nobody can see me, I'll grab him by his throat and I'm going to hold on until he starts screaming. Okay, fine. I didn't grab him. You didn't see me do it, right? Well, he's going to go over there and Soriano is going to see those marks around his neck. And that's going to be the end of Jalen Hurts running that tush push. Nobody runs it like him, right? Now, you can get a big fella, a tight end, like what Baltimore was doing with Mark Andrews, and you can slam it up in there that way. But he's not used to handling the ball like Jalen Hurts. So he's more likely to fumble than what Hurts would do. So by getting Hurts out of there, it changed the whole dynamics of that play. And I'm just telling you, if they keep on doing it, somebody's going to grab that quarterback by his throat. Yeah, Aaron Hoffman say that the offensive line is most important. Jihad, how you doing, man? I ain't seen you in a while. Don't give up on your Ravens, man. Now, last year you gave me hell about my Steelers, but now the whole roles seem to be reversed. I didn't give up, so you can't give up. Now, the thing about the Ravens, their problem is they have injuries. If they can get well, if they can get Jackson, which I don't think he tore his hamstring off the bone, so you can shoot that up and put a sleeve on and get out there and play. He may not be able to run around like he used to until he gets 100% well, but he can get out there and throw. I had a hamstring pull before. They gave me a sleeve, and it almost felt like I wasn't even hurt. And once you get that feeling that you can do it, then he'll be fine. But your problem is on defense. You're giving up too many points. And I tell you another thing. The Ravens, they don't use Henry enough. They're giving the ball, 8-9 times a game? Double that production. He can run the ball easily 20 times a game. And the more he keep piling up in there, he's going to break something. So if the Ravens continue to run the football, and they're going to have to if Lamar Jackson is not there, because you saw what they had with Cooper Rush, completely different team. And you're going to have to depend on Henry, man. And they're going to see that they're going to need to run the ball more with Henry. So what I think you're going to see, Jihad, if they don't give it outright to Henry straight out of the I formation, you're going to see that high school offense they were running a couple years ago before they got Henry. Remember that year they went, 14-2? And Henry and the Titans beat them in the playoffs. That offense they were running, that was a high school offense. It was basically a wing T type offense with 2 tight ends. That's what you're going to see from the Ravens until Jackson gets well enough to play. All right, talking about stuff. All right, talking about stuff you can't change. Well, you go somewhere else. We're talking about football over here. Mr. In Yang, which is talking a bunch of yang, which don't mean a thing. Aaron Rodgers still a good quarterback. Yeah, if you can keep him up, he's going to be fine. But like I say, Pittsburgh running the football, and he's more accurate than the quarterback they had over the last several years. So it's going to come down to, can they keep him healthy? But what's really keeping Pittsburgh afloat right now is the defense is forcing a lot of turnovers. And if they keep doing that, and like my college coach says, every team has a character. And right now, Pittsburgh has the character of a defense that's going to create turnovers. And that bodes well as you get deeper into the weather change coming up. Well, think about Aaron, the Rodgers and the Jets. they didn't get along too well, and a lot of people didn't want him there. Now they see him performing well against beat the Jets, and he's performing well against other teams. Now they wish they had him back. But I think that Justin Fields, he threw some terrible passes the other night. I was kind of embarrassed for him the way he was looking. It wasn't for that great run he had to score that touchdown. He was stinking up the joint. And I don't know if that's from the line or just because he's just not a good NFL quarterback. But it's just like I've been saying all along about these running quarterbacks, like a Lamar Jackson. At some point, you got to stand in there and throw the football. And even if Jackson was able to play, he can't run now. He's got to stand in there and throw the football. And if you're going to win, that's what you're going to have to do. You can run, but to win a championship, at some point, you're going to have to put it in there. Now, he is throwing the ball a lot better, but he ain't convinced me that he can do it. Justin Fields is not convincing me. Hurts, he hadn't gotten to a position where he had to stand strictly back there and throw the football. I'm not convinced if he can do it or not, but that's what it's going to come down to. Can you stand in there and throw it when you have to? All right. Charles B., how you doing, man? Baltimore going through injury. I think Baltimore will be all right. All it takes for them to get a win or two. You know, everybody had Kansas City buried. They're not dead. Baltimore is not dead. Again, these are all pro football players. They're supposed to show up every day. I just think that Jackson, he's going to have to get out there and play in some fashion, man. Dart looked good the first game, but the thing is, it's just like the first game of team season. They don't know what they're going to get until the game is played and you see. So the second game, there won't be no more surprises. So what you'll see now coming from Dart, his opponents are going to set up to play him, and you're going to get a different look from what the Chargers gave him. Now, I thought the Chargers were going to play all kind of games with him and confuse him, but they just didn't seem to be. I guess they thought they were just going to stroll into New York and play a vanilla game and get out of there. Didn't work out that way, and that's the beauty of the NFL. All right, the Falcons and Penix, no, I don't know if the Falcons are ready. If you've been paying attention to the Falcons, the first week, they looked great. The second week, they looked terrible. Then they looked great again. No, let me reverse that. No, I got it right. They looked terrible against the Panthers, and they looked great last week. Now, this week, if they look great this week, then you know the Falcons are all right. But if they come and look the way they did against the Panthers, then you know that they're not going to do anything. But in the future, yes, they're going to be a good team. The Giants beat a good Chargers team. They did, but like I said, I think the Chargers might have been overlooking them. I thought they had it. They might have thought they had it in the bag because they were playing against a rookie quarterback with his first start, and they got caught. And that tends to happen sometimes, so no big deal. But anyway, I'm talking about this barbecue joint in Jacksonville, man. They had an opportunity to generational business. It's been open for 68 years, and they closed the doors yesterday because they're citing the changing taste of the food customers. And I understand the rising costs of the supply chain, but hell, it was high when you first got started back in '57. You know, you can go to the store and play retail and still get your meat. So I don't understand why you can't get your meat unless they're trying to tell you got to get X amount of meat. But with 3 locations, you can close 2 of the locations and operate from a central location until you build back up so you can expand again. But I don't see why they had to close that business unless there's some dark stuff going on. I have no idea. I can't speak on that. But looking at it from the outside and learning basic business management, I got 3 stores and it's been around for 68 years. I'm going to find a way to keep those doors open. But it's the hunger thing. The hunger of the owner that starts it. He's got all the hunger. He's going to build a business, pass it on to his kids. They're going to try to keep it up to a certain extent. But those grandkids, all they see is the money. They don't give a damn about the history and tradition and all that. How can I cash this out and make some money? I hope that's not the case here. But that's often the case a lot of times. A lot of these long-time stores you hear about closing, it's because the greed of the younger generation that didn't put any equity in it, they don't give a damn about it. So I hope to see Jenkins Barbecue return at some form of fashion in the future. If nothing else, start up a sauce business online and go that way and generate money to keep the name out there. But right now it's a sad occasion. As of the day, no more Jenkins Barbecue. And we're going to need that barbecue probably this weekend because, as you know, the Chiefs coming to Jacksonville, and they're 2-2 against the 3-1 Jaguars. The Jaguars looking for respectability. If they can get by Kansas City and go 4-1 in that weak AFC South, then that might be a team you might have to deal with as their confidence grows as the year continues. So that is something to keep an eye on. Yeah, the Jets still look terrible. I don't think it's the coach. I think it's the players. Well, the thing about that, you know, it's a turnover that happens every year and a half or so. Get rid of the whole house, and then, you know, just like the Giants, they're going to clean house. They got some decent players there to build on, and it's going to go from there. But NFL is a big cycle. You can be terrible this year and great the next. It doesn't even matter anymore. You just got to have belief, Jihad. But you should be happy that the Jets are terrible, because if they're on your schedule, maybe you can mark that as a win. But right now, just to jug at you a little bit, I might be penciling the Ravens as 2 wins for the Steelers, man. No, I'm just messing with you. I'm looking forward to the competition. I hope you guys are 100% when we play against the Ravens, because I don't want to whip a wounded dog. I want to whip you 100%. And I know it was. I'm just messing with you, man. But anyway, I want you guys 100% when we come to see you, man, because you put me out the playoffs last year, and we coming for some straightening. So you get ready, Jihad. I'm a Jets fan. It's hard to deal with the losing. Yeah, well, I mean, it's always great every year when the optimism is high. So don't get down on yourself, Break. Everything's going to work out, man. Jets aren't as bad as you think they are. I think that Fields need to tighten up, or he's going to be out of another quarterback job, and he's going to be out of the league. He didn't look very good the other night, and he can't run like he do in college. But that run he did make, he looked great doing it. So if you can get that guy out in the open field, forget all that slide and just let him go. But anyway, you guys, wherever you are in the world, you have a great day. I got to get up out of here and go sign in. That bell is the signal that I got to go to work, man. So you guys have a great day, and unless there's some breaking news, I'll catch you in the morning, about 6:30. So, meantime, and you guys feeling bad about yourself, you want to see some good football, just plug up tape of the Steelers in Minnesota from the other day and watch what the defense looks like, man. And maybe, just maybe, your team could look like the Steelers defense one day.